Pay no attention to me.
Yeah, can you steal another one somewhere else?
I found one at Jenny's desk, but I'm gonna have to put it back.
It's a reminder.
The chair in my office broke today too. Garrett went to sit on it, the whole leg was like, he was sitting on it, I was like, me?
All the way back,
Why would you freeze it like that?
and then you try to adjust.
I did not break the chair, Amber.
No, the chair was broken.
Remember what, was it Al?
And it was only broken because it was the cheapest chair available that time.
Al fell out of that chair.
I mean, I know I put on a few pounds recently.
You did jinx the sneeze. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, January 27, 2026 Council Work Session. The first item on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation, which will be led by our City Attorney, Tom Trask. Please rise.
Father in heaven, give us the power to clearly discern right from wrong, allow our words and actions to be governed thereby and by the laws of this land. We ask for inspiration to strive in our endeavors to serve the public. We also ask that you direct us so that above all things, we can discharge our duties for the benefit of the people we serve. This we pray.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Tom. The next item on our agenda is our Citizens Open Forum. Each speaker will be recognized once and limited to a 5-minute presentation on any subject. There's no matters on our agenda for public hearing. If you do wish to speak, please give us your name and address. We don't assume that you live in Oldsmar. Would anyone on this side of the room wish to address the council? Come on up, Tom.
Tom O'Shea, 28 Lake Charles Court. I know you guys are going to do a great job tonight. I look forward to the discussion. One thing I'd like to prioritize is repaving Douglas Road. I know it's kind of been tabled, waiting on redoing Douglas Road, but essentially redoing Douglas Road has been moved off the table. So we can kind of maybe get that repaved, especially the really bumpy section. And then I'm okay with raising my taxes to do that if you're able to raise taxes going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Anyone else on this side of the room? Okay. Is there anyone on this side of the room who wishes to address the council? Okay, with that, we will close the open forum, and the next item on our agenda is the general fund budget and legislative impact update. I'll call on our city manager, Felicia Donnelly.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Today's work section really focuses on 2 items. First, an update of our general fund and potential impacts from current proposed property tax legislation. Second is an update on council priorities for fiscal years 26-27 through 27-28, as well as the discussion of council priorities for 27-28 and 28-29. The reason we're having the first part of this discussion now is uncertainty. The legislature is considering multiple proposals that could materially reduce municipal revenues. Depending on which measures advance and are approved, the potential impacts to Oldsmar range from thousands of dollars to millions of dollars annually. Timing matters. While the regular legislative session is scheduled to conclude in March, the governor has already indicated that he will call a special session after the regular session, potentially in April, to address property tax reform if those issues are not yet resolved. As a result, meaningful policy decisions affecting municipal revenue may continue well into the spring. This creates an extended period of uncertainty for local governments, particularly as we begin planning for our 27-28 budget and we start prep for 28-29 budget. So the purpose of the first part of today's discussion is not to make final strategy decisions. Rather, it's to talk about policy direction, risk tolerance, and the range of pathways available to council so that the city can be prepared to respond as legislative outcomes become clearer. Some of those options will take a year to execute if council desires, so that's important to know. The second portion of the work session is about council priorities. City staff is going to provide an update on your current priorities, and then we're going to discuss your priorities for the following 2 years. So that's fiscal year 27-28 and 28-29. I'm going to bring back each item, one for the consideration of our options for property tax reform and another one for the consideration of your priorities at a future council meeting. So no decisions can be made tonight. So we're going to start with where are we now? So I'm going to invite Cindy Nino to the lectern.
Thank you, Felicia.
Hi, Cindy.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My goal tonight is to give you a brief overview of the general fund program activities, what they cost, how they are funded. The information I'm presenting is based on the results of our operations as of September 30th, 2025. We're currently finishing up our annual comprehensive financial report, or better known as ACFR, well, for me anyway, better known as ACFR, for fiscal year 25. While the audit is still underway, these numbers are considered unaudited, but they are very close to final, if not exactly the final numbers. One of the key reports in the ACFR is a government-wide statement of activities. This report shows how much each major city function cost and how those costs are funded across both governmental and business-type funds. These two fund types have different accounting treatments. So adjustments are made, in this particular report, adjustments are made to the governmental fund reports or numbers to make them apples to the governmental or the enterprise fund numbers. So that way you're looking at apples to apples instead of apples to oranges in this one particular report. For tonight's presentation, we use that same structure and prepared a report that's focused only on the general fund, using unadjusted numbers that don't have that government-wide adjustment to them from the fund financials. This gives you a clear budget-based look at how general fund revenues fund and pay for general fund services for fiscal year 25. Okay, and here's our report. On the left side of the report, you will see the major general fund programs: general government, law enforcement, fire protection, streets and fleet, library, parks and recreation, debt service, transfers, and other. The next column shows you the cost of the program. The program costs are expressed as negative numbers because they are outflows. The following columns show any direct revenues that offset these costs, such as charges for services and grants and contributions. The far right column shows the net program expenditures. In other words, how much each program relies on unrestricted general fund revenue, like property taxes, utility taxes, and franchise fees, to cover the general fund activities. With that said, the net program expenditures are also expressed as negative numbers. Now to dive into the details, the general fund program expenditures for fiscal year 25 total just over $18.2 million. Major programs include fire protection, $3.5 million, Parks and Rec, $3.9 million, general government, $5.1 million, law enforcement, $2.3 million, streets and fleet, $1.7 million, library, about $1.3 million, debt service and other, $400,000. These expenditures include personnel, operating, equipment, and building maintenance cost. It's important to note that large governmental non-utility capital projects are not included in the general fund, as they typically have complex funding and are reflected in different funds, such as capital improvement fund or the public safety impact fund. Road construction and resurfacing, major OSC improvements, and other penny for Pinellas and/or grant-funded projects are not part of the general fund program totals for fiscal year 25. The new fire truck that we recently purchased came out of the public safety impact fund, so that's not in these numbers as well. Some of the programs have direct revenues that help offset these costs. For example, general government receives reimbursements from the enterprise funds for shared services such as technical services, managerial and administrative staff, human resources, street and fleet maintenance, IT resources, etc. FEMA reimbursements also help to offset the cost of general government program activities for fiscal year '25, as well as some charges for services. Fire protection receives county EMS funding, state insurance premium tax proceeds, firefighter supplemental compensation payments, and safety grants. Other charges for services also help offset these costs. The library receives funding from Pinellas County Library Co-op and a small amount of service fees they collect. Parks and Rec receives funding from their wonderful recreation programs and facility rentals, as well as some operating grants and donations, such as one we recently received from Little League to fund some improvements at the OSC. Overall program revenues offset about $3.5 million of program activity expenditures in 2025. After accounting for all the program revenues, grants and contributions, about $14.7 million of general fund program costs must be covered by unrestricted general fund revenues, meaning revenues that can be used for any legal general government purpose. The largest source of unrestricted revenues is ad valorem property taxes at about $7.7 million for fiscal year '25. This does not include the $445,000 that we transferred to the CRA as required by statute. Other major unrestricted revenues include utility taxes, franchise fees, communication services taxes, revenue sharing from the state, and investment earnings. Total unrestricted general fund revenue for fiscal year '25 was about $15.3 million, $14.7 million of which was used to fund the general fund program services, and the remainder was saved in reserve. When we do the budget, sometimes the revenues come in higher, sometimes they come in lower. A lot of times there's unexpected revenues that come in that we're not really planning for or expecting at budget time, such as a FEMA reimbursement. So that's why we kind of end up with those variances. In 2025, we did have a one-time property sale in the general fund. The general fund received $2.25 million from the sale of the land next to the library, known as the Odeon site. The revenue has been allocated to capital projects, debt service, and reserves in fiscal year '26, and that revenue is not available to fund ongoing services or cost. Okay, so the good news is, that was a lot of information, but I'm going to go through it again. Just in summary form, though. This slide shows that the total program expenditure is $18.2 million by major function, including law enforcement, fire protection, streets and fleet, library, parks and rec, and debt service. General government is made up of 10 divisions, including city council, city manager's office, city clerk, legal counsel, human resources, planning and redevelopment, technical services, public communications, administrative services, and information technology. Okay. This slide shows the program revenues of about $3.5 million, resulting in net expenditures of $14.7 million that must be funded through unrestricted revenues. I kind of went through these before, but I'll briefly touch on them again. Charges for services, services we do that we get paid for. General government, we had reimbursement from the enterprise funds, and then other charges for services. Fire protection, county EMS reimbursement, insurance proceeds or insurance premium taxes, and charges for services. Library, fines and charges, fines and forfeitures, and then charges for services. Parks and recreation, charges for services, facility rentals. And then for grants and contributions, general government, we received some FEMA reimbursement. Fire protection had some safety grants. Library, Pinellas County Co-op funding, and Parks and Rec donations, and then some grants that we received. Again, the total is almost $3.5 million. Okay, so this slide shows unrestricted revenues totaling $15.3 million. The biggest one is property taxes. We also receive money from utility taxes from electric and natural gas bills, communication services tax. Franchise fees, another major revenue source, but not nearly as much as the property taxes. State and local revenue sharing, investment income, get some miscellaneous revenue. And then we also, as we have surplus equipment that has been replaced, we sell it at auction, so we get some gains on sale of capital assets that we record. Okay. And this slide presents a final summary of the previous information. Total program expenditures, $18.2 million. Restricted revenue sources that help fund those program expenditures and help offset them. Charges for services and grants and contributions, almost $3.5 million. The net expenditures, $14.7 million. A total unrestricted revenues of $15.3 million helps to offset or offsets that, the net expenditures. Okay, the rest going into reserves. Okay, so now we have this pie chart. And the pie chart should show. Jordan, help.
The little guys don't want to go where they're supposed to go. Quick question, while she's doing that, Cindy, the business tax receipts, I mean, I know it's not worthy of its own category because it's not that much. That falls under the unrestricted, right?
For the financial statement presentation that we have in our act, for which my numbers are based on, it rolls up into general government.
Okay,
So typically, I know in other reports that you'll see from other sources, business tax receipts are listed as unrestricted, but for financial reporting in the ACFR, we've always put it on general government.
okay. I know we're not talking about that particular legislation tonight, but there's also pending legislation related to that, so I
Right.
wanted to ask about it. Oh, perfect
Okay.
timing. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, now we have numbers. Okay. All right, so okay, so the pie chart shows, this is how that $15.3 million is utilized by the different functions. Law enforcement is 15% of the $15.3 million that is utilized to fund that activity. Fire protection, 17%. Parks and Rec, 23% of the $15.3 million. General government, 21%. Streets and fleet, 11%. Library, 7%. Debt service, 2%. And the reserves are 4%. Okay, the general fund receipt. Okay, this is an example. It's another way that the city is communicating how property tax dollars are used through the general fund receipt. This is something you're going to be seeing, if you're not already seeing it on social media. And basically, it shows the average homestead property owner's annual tax payment to the city is about $680. And it also shows how those dollars are allocated across the general fund departments in the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The city will continue utilizing tools like this to support transparency and community understanding. Okay, so with that, this brings us to an overview of the proposed property tax legislation and what it can mean for the general fund and our ability to fund these services. House Joint Resolution 201 eliminates all non-school property taxes for homestead properties. Property taxes from counties, cities, and special districts and water management districts would be paid only for non-homestead properties. Businesses, which would be businesses, rental properties, and second homes. HJR 203 phases out the elimination of non-school property taxes for homestead gradually over 10 years. HJR 205 exempts the senior citizens over age 65 from paying non-school homestead property taxes. HJR 207 creates a new homestead exemption equal to 25% of the remaining assessed value for non-school taxes. HJR 209 creates an additional $200,000 homestead exemption for properties that maintain comprehensive multi-peril insurance coverage. HJR 211 eliminates the current $500,000 cap on portability, allowing homeowners to transfer their entire accumulated Save Our Homes benefit to a new home, regardless of the amount. HJR 213 modifies constitutional limits to replace annual property tax assessment caps with 3-year caps for non-school taxes, limiting homestead increases to 3% over 3 years and non-homestead increases to 15% over 3 years, while prohibiting reductions in local law enforcement funding. SJR 550 prohibits levying ad valorem taxes on tangible personal property by counties, school districts, and municipalities. Tangible personal property is a tax paid on the value of business equipment. You know, it sounds tangible personal property sounds like it's personal, but it's actually business property. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Garrett Zila, who is the Assistant Administrative Services Director, who will go through a website that Pinellas County Property Appraiser has created that will help out analyze the potential impacts of all of these bills and go over the general fund impact, potential general fund impact.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. Good
Hey,
evening,
Gary.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Great to see you all this evening. Okay, I am Garrett Zeliff, your Assistant Administrative Services Director. And as I click on this link here in the presentation, it's going to take us to a website. Doing good so far. All right, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Mike Twitty and his team at the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office. Their work on this data set and the accompanying information is just another example of the fact they're consistently at the forefront of their peers across the state. He and his team are excellent partners with the citizens and the taxing authorities across the county, and we're just really lucky to have them and their expertise here. So thank you to him and his team. Okay, so the data on this publicly available site provides the best information we have currently on the financial implications of these draft bills as they make their way through the legislative process. I highly recommend citizens and the public review this information as they assess the impacts from these potential bills, and I believe we will be posting this link on our social media in the coming days also. A couple of notes about the website and the data set. It is based on 2024's final certified values, final certified tax roll values, as 2025's final certification will not be completed until VAB is done, the Value Adjustment Board is done later this spring. There are two primary filters here on the website, and we're going to look at this first one primarily today, which is tax authority. And if you scroll down on the website, or you can search if you'd like to go faster than I am.
But it's fun to see them all.
Look at all those taxing authorities. Here we are, Oldsmar. You'll see the numbers will update. We see the spinning hand here. There it goes.
Okay.
So it is a live data set, so depending on the information you're requesting, it may take a minute or two. So this is the taxable value or the impacts assessed by the property appraiser's data for each of these different bills for the city. If you were to select this millage code option, which there's also an Oldsmar option down here, let the data reset. You'll see those numbers look a little bit different because that represents all revenues of all taxing authorities in Oldsmar's jurisdiction. So that would include the counties, the impact on the county's revenues, the impact on PSTA's revenues, the impact on SwiftMud's revenues, other taxing authorities. So because we're talking about the city's budget today, I'm going to unselect millage code and we're going to talk about Oldsmar revenues. So we'll go back to tax authority OM for Oldsmar. And you'll see that 2.57 billion is not what we're budgeting for next year. There's that 7.8 million. Okay, so there are a few bills we'll go over tonight that have a phased-in impact, and it's a little bit hard to see down at the bottom of the page, but you'll see there are multiple tabs on this data set, so there are 4 of them. Those bills that have a phased-in impact will be on those tabs, and I'll show you those a little bit later as well. And then more bills may be added by the property appraiser and his team as the legislature continues to develop and supplement the range of bills under their consideration. So we may see things change and get added to this website as we go along. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the website, and I'll go back and forth throughout the presentation and show you some of these numbers again, I just highly recommend everybody go on their own time and take a look at that. So let's jump back into the presentation. Okay, so just a quick timeline on the impacts of these potential amendments. So the legislature is currently working on various bills concerning property taxes. They may be changed, supplemented, reduced as part of the legislative process. Once any of the final versions of the bills are completed and developed into ballot questions for the voters in November of this year, 2026, the voters will get a chance to decide which, if any, of the ballot questions will become law. And because of the timing of the votes, we're anticipating any impacts will not become effective until the property evaluation process for January 1st, 2027. So the taxes paid for this valuation date are generally going to be paid in November and December of 2027. So those will be impactful on the city's fiscal year 2028 budget. So we're going to be looking at the impacts of 2028 in our fiscal year. And as city staff and other local governments have been watching these discussions happen at the state level, we've begun to frame the range of impacts based on the most current data we have available to us in order to give as much time as possible to consider the implications for the city's budget in coordination with city council and the community. Okay. So with that said, let's look at those potential revenue impacts and what they may be based on the bills as we currently understand them. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a minute for dramatic effect, big red numbers, and I'm going to go back quickly to the website and show you where these come from. So once you've selected Oldsmar as your taxing authority, we have some options here under this Bill Selector menu where you'll be able to go through and see the results of any of the particular laws as they're written currently. So right now in yellow, you'll see the current tax law has Oldsmar at $7.8 million of ad valorem tax revenue. And then as you click through the scenarios, this blue bar will change. So that big red number at the top was House Joint Resolution 201, which is the exemption of all homesteaded property owners from ad valorem tax. You'll see currently, under the current law, 7.8 million, that drops down to 5.1 million. There is a rounding formula that exists here in this website. So 7.8 minus 5.1 is 2.7. Cindy taught me well. But there's this rounding here that goes up to 3 million. So I'm going to talk about it like it's 2.7, but obviously there are many taxing authorities with much higher budgets, so a little rounding is kind of understandable. So we have $2.7 million of impact, and you can see that when you look at the detailed chart there. So this would mean that the city's general fund revenues would be reduced by 2.7 million starting in fiscal 2028 and for years going forward. This is a reduction of 14.8% on the 18.2 million of general fund expenditures that we saw in Cindy's slide earlier. And that's a reduction of 17.6% of general fund unrestricted revenues of 15.3 million you all saw on that slide, that same slide in 2025. And if you look at that through the lens of ad valorem taxes levied by the city for fiscal 25, that would be a 35.1% reduction of the $7.7 million shown in ad valorem tax revenue from Cindy's slide. So we're talking about a potential 35% reduction in the largest revenue source for general fund for the city. So that is House Joint Resolution 201. And similarly, you can go through and look at the other potential bills under consideration. They have varying impacts to the city of Oldsmar. I'll jump back to the presentation quickly. I'll jump back to the wrong slide of the presentation quickly. The really wrong slide of the presentation.
It's okay.
I just wanted you to see all that information again. Okay, so here we are. There's that $3 million or $2.7 million unrounded for House Joint Resolution 201. House Joint Resolution 205 would have an impact of $827,000 on the city's general fund revenues. House Joint Resolution 207, which is an additional 25% of an exemption on taxable value after other exemptions, would have a $671,000 impact. House Joint Resolution 209 would have a $2 million impact out of that $7.7 million shown on Cindy's earlier slide. House Joint Resolution 211 would have a smaller impact of $54,000 every year. We are talking annual impacts here. Senate Joint Resolution 550, which is the elimination of all tangible personal property taxes, which, as Cindy mentioned, is business equipment, would reduce general fund ad valorem revenues by $1 million. And if House Joint Resolution 201 and Senate Joint Resolution 550 are combined somehow as part of the legislative process and passed as one bill, we'd be looking at a $4 million impact. So options as the legislature continues their work. That would be a $4 million impact for those two, that $3 million impact and that $1 million impact are added together. Okay, so I have an example here of one of the phase-in options. This is House Joint Resolution 203, which is an elimination of the ad valorem taxes for homesteaded properties that would occur over a 10-year period. So I will show you back to the property appraiser's website how that looks. So again, that's down here at the bottom of the screen. Click over to some of these phased-in options. Okay, so here is House Joint Resolution 203, which is the elimination of non-school property taxes over 10 years. This slide, this projection does include an assumed 4% increase in tax growth rate as new properties are built or as the homestead cap of 3% increase to your taxes is accounted for every year. You can change that assumption as you wish when you go to the website, anywhere from a 0% assumption to 5%.
Can you click Oldsmar under the taxing
Oh,
authority?
thank you, yes.
I mean, I'd love to have billions, but
Ah,
I don't want to lose billions either. I just want to see how it,
thank you, Mayor.
I believe your slide, though.
It's trust but verify. I like it.
Trust but verify. Yeah, it's just, no, it's just as bad. Thank you.
So when you, as the mayor astutely pointed out, when you change tabs of the data set, you must reselect the Oldsmar Taxing Authority.
Good at, yeah. We should let people know that.
Yep. So this is how the impact would increase over time as we phase in that elimination of the homesteaded property taxes. All right, back to the presentation. To the right slide this time. So there's that impact every year for the next 10 years. And of course, in year 11, that impact doesn't get smaller, right? So you've completed the phase-in, and those numbers will just continue to grow if you continue to assume a 4% growth rate
So
that would have
it's
been
like a
had.
balloon payment.
A very good analogy. And then we have House Joint Resolution 213, which limits the increase in taxable ad valorem revenue over a 3-year period. So right now it's capped at 3% per year. This would be limiting that increase to over a 3-year period instead. This House Joint Resolution also has an additional piece that would prohibit local governments such as the city from reducing any law enforcement funding below fiscal 25, 26, or 26, 27 levels. And you'll see that impact varies a little bit based on which year of the 3-year cycle you're in. And that's also available on the property appraiser's website in the phase-in, one of those tabs. Okay. So as we've seen, some of these bills could result in a dramatic reduction in general fund revenues, particularly those unrestricted revenues utilized to cover governmental services to the community. Well, of course, no final decisions on impacts have been made as we wait for the legislature to finalize any bills for voter consideration. Staff is looking tonight for some general direction from council as to how the council would like us to respond at this point. Here is a list of areas that could see impacts from any reduced funding. This list should look very similar to the chart Cindy presented earlier this evening. Since we don't have any final versions of any bills to consider at this point, impacts could occur across the range of services funded out of general fund. As I mentioned earlier, some of the bills do limit the allowable reductions to parts of public safety funding, which would require deeper cuts to the other areas listed here, such as street maintenance, parks and rec, library services, and general government services. So, with all this information as the backdrop, I'd like to turn things over to our esteemed city manager, Felicia Donnelly, who will give you a framework of options to address some of these unknowns that we'd like your input on this evening.
Garrett, I didn't like your part as much.
It wasn't the most fun part of the presentation. No. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Garrett and Cindy. So what do we do with all this information? That's really why we're here to talk about tonight, right? So we have a uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. So, but there are some options that I think you all should consider at this point, or close to this point. So option A is to reduce service levels, right? So if something passes, how do we reduce the budget to our new revenue profile? Option B is revenue optimization. Option C is a combination approach. And option D is to do nothing and to wait for clarity. So option A, reduce service levels to accommodate the reduction in tax revenue. So how do we do this? I have some ideas. Based on your community engagement policy, right? We can ask our community to help us identify where those cuts should be made. So we can ask our community members to help identify which general fund services matter most to them, which outcomes matter most: safety, reliability, quality of life, where trade-offs are acceptable and where they're not, and then impacts and concerns that staff may not see. So some engagement methods can include, community priority surveys, public workshops, some online comment tools. After we ask the community how they feel, right, we also will do service level analysis data internally. And so that way we can present it and we can evaluate what the social impact of any decision. Every action has a reaction. And then what's the operational impact? How much actual money is it going to reduce the budget by? So I think we should know both. And then the staff can present that analysis and the community input to the council at budget work sessions for not this year's budget, FY27, but FY28. So that gives us some time to do it. Any policy decisions could be made, of course, transparently and in public meetings because we would have some time. Option B, revenue optimization. So what does that mean? So in the past couple of years, right, we've raised some fees. We've already looked at fees across the board. We raised, things like impact fees and permit fees and parks fees. But it's been about a few years. So we can look at those again, right? Planning fees. Currently, we don't charge at all right-of-way permit fees, so that's something we may want to introduce to cover the cost of processing and compliance. Parks and rec fees, summer camp programs, classes, facility rentals, all of those just to do, a market adjustments based on, what other municipalities are charging and what it costs us to maintain those facilities. Library program fees is another one. We don't charge anything for library programs right now, but we could. We can also issue, special assessments. So special assessments are service-based and they're non-ad valorem, right? And so they're targeted charges for specific services or improvements that benefit properties. The Florida statutes allows a fire services assessment. So that supports fire and EMS services citywide. So that would be, supporting our fire, Oldsmar Fire and Rescue, and then you could also use general fund money to also support that. So it wouldn't be it doesn't have to be the primary source of funding. Street lighting assessments, if you all remember from last year's budget, we pay out about $400,000 a year in street lights, and that's really along 580 and State Street and St. Pete Drive and some of Washington. So we could assess nearby property owners. Those are the only street lights that the city pays for, by the way. The rest of the street lights are supported by the adjacent property owners in some manner. There's a lot of steps to special assessments, as you could guess, right? So regardless of the type, regardless of the there's a formal process to ensure fairness, legality, and transparency. So you have to define the service or improvement being funded. You have to identify the properties that directly benefit. You have to determine a fair method to apportion the costs. That all requires technical, legal analysis. We have to give public notice, of course, hold public hearings, allow for public comment and review. And then the city council approves those in a public meeting. And so this is across the board to any assessment. We were talking about it earlier. We think the city's actually done about 3 assessments in the last 20 years or so. Fire assessments, additional complexity. And so fire protection assessments are typically more complex because it's an ongoing citywide essential service. I did ask the Florida League of Cities. We fill out a survey every year that we report some items to Florida League. And so they sent me back some of that data. And on their data sheet, there was about 68 cities that self-reported that they have fire assessment fees. I found another 10 that weren't on the list just by a Google search. And so I figure it's probably about 25–30%. There's 411 municipalities in Florida. I haven't checked all of them, but there's certainly a pretty substantial number that's already charging fire assessment fees. So we can't do this in-house. So that would be something that if we want to look at, we have to retain an independent consultant with fire assessment expertise. I found, looking at how other communities did it, there's about 4 that are on repeat. So there may be some more, but I found 4 different consulting firms that do this kind of work. They conduct detailed cost of service, call load analysis. They'll evaluate the benefit by property type and use. And then they'll test the methodology for legal defensibility and then model affordability and the impact to property class. So it's a complex study. It's not something that is easy. I think it'll take us about a year. Remember, we have to go through government procurement process. This isn't in your current budget, so it'll require a budget revision. It'll require us to scope and go through procurement. Getting someone on the contract just to do it will take some time. So I always say a year to design and, however long to construct something. So from my experience, it'll take us some time to do that. So that's option B. Option C is a balanced approach, right? Look at some service adjustments, ask the public if what we're providing aligns with what they want, and then look at revenue optimization. So I don't have anything else to say about option C except that it would be a combo approach. That would have to get started moving relatively quickly too, because as you know, doing any sort of community engagement takes time too.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Of course.
So, just so I'm clear on option C, would be a combination of getting the public's input and also doing the, hiring a consultant for the fire assessment?
Could
as
be.
well? Or whatever we decide later on, it could be a pieced out combo that we feel like fits the city the best?
I think you could do concurrently, so you could
Right,
start.
that's what I mean.
We could start designing a community engagement, because again, when we ask the community about level of service reductions, it's gonna take a lot of data from our side to put together, and then we're gonna have to design how to get that input back. So
Right.
that's one path, but you can do both of these concurrently. So
Okay.
you can start looking at fire assessment options at the same time.
Okay.
One doesn't preclude the other.
Do we have an estimate, sorry, this is going back to option B. Do we have an estimate on how much the potential cost would be? I know we haven't sent out any bids or anything, but do we have any kind of range that it?
I'm gonna guess 80 to 100. but really, I don't have a solid footing, because remember too, these are gonna be driven by the market. So if
Everybody wants one.
legislation is all of a sudden driving people, I know that city managers in Pinellas County, we've been talking about it for several months. If everybody starts looking for consultants to do fire assessment, I have no idea what the charge is gonna be.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we do have option D, which is to do nothing at this point. We can wait until, the end of special session, which the governor said he's gonna call sometime in April if they don't resolve something. We can wait until, if they put something on the ballot, we can wait until November to see if something passes or not. I will caution you, that will not give us time to react. So that will then be a very, compressed schedule for any sort of community engagement. We won't be able to address assessment fees. So then we would be limited to the options
Option A.
of option A with a level of service reduction. And it could be substantial.
Before you go on, I have a couple of questions about these options. Do you guys have questions about these options?
I asked mine. I interrupted, sorry.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Okay, I want to go back to option A just briefly. I felt like it was just a little bit sanitized, because oh, hang on, I'll wait till you get back to.
Oh,
No,
it's too late now, Jordan.
It's okay, it's
You've already
Okay.
It's really important. So this is the process. Maybe go back one more. Okay. So I appreciate this information about the process to look at priorities and values, what services matter most. But I think we need a little bit more on the nose. What does it mean to reduce services? And I know you know I know, but I need you to tell me in a way that we can tell the public that this might look. For instance, if we don't do anything, if we do option D and don't do anything, or even the combination, what does a reduction in services look like?
So a reduction in services looks like, when Cindy went over everything that is funded with unrestricted money, right? So that is elements of public safety, even though the legislation says that you can't fund it less than the level of this year. But what about increases to the budget and public safety over time? So you're looking at across the board, library, parks, rec, general government services. There's nothing that you couldn't look at. So you're looking at, but again, there was just an amendment to 201 that also says that you can't reduce fire. So you're looking at, if you can't reduce fire and law enforcement, then the rest of those cuts come out of the rest of those departments.
Yeah, I just
Which
think
parks,
the
libraries,
people need to understand
tech
like this.
services, streets.
Exactly. So this could mean, we literally cannot have the library open all week. We might have to close the Cypress Forest Rec Center for periods of time, maybe during the day. We might not be able to have fireworks. We might defer Celebrate Oldsmar. We might not be able to do some of our capital improvement programs. We might not be able to, it's cataclysmic. And I understand option C is a combination of things. But, when I look at, okay, streetlights, good example. $400,000 for a fee, helpful, but that's not going to fill a $5 million hole. And so I think when we're engaging the community and informing people about what this really means, I think it does help to be really direct. I've appreciated a lot of the Facebook videos and things, the social media things that people that we've been posting to help people understand. For the fire assessment fee, option B, it occurs to me that because in Cindy's chart, the categories in order of size were really general fund, parks, fire, law enforcement, right? You don't have to,
She's
go
trying to X
all the
out.
way back.
Yeah, just making it easy by Xing out.
Oh.
Calling in.
Oh, it's a Microsoft PowerPoint skill. Oh,
Yes.
I don't have many of those.
I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
Every time I have to do it, I'm like, how do I read what I wrote down?
You know what's worse? I can't do Excel very well.
Me neither. They're like, well, you hit slideshow or something, and then it gives me everything I wrote, and I'm still confused.
Great
I'm
at
like,
Excel.
You're good in Excel?
Yeah, I
But we're
work for
confused.
attorneys, so I have to be good at that because my attorney's not.
What do they use Excel for?
Yeah, what do you use Excel for?
I use it for all kinds of things.
Oh, really?
Okay.
We don't really use Excel that much.
This-
Well, different area of
this-
law.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All those lists. Kinds of lists. Lists galore.
Oh, I just have a chicken scratch list in front of me on a notepad. There's my list. I can write Excel at the top of it. It makes it.
Yeah, so,
You excel at that list.
so as Cindy, put up these numbers, I appreciate the pie chart and, the raw numbers here make very clear where the total expenditures are going. And if you just, put them in order real quick, it goes, general fund, parks, fire, law enforcement. And if we theoretically can't touch, or maybe shouldn't consider touching service adjustments to law enforcement and fire, then it occurs to me that perhaps the fire assessment fee might be an option. But I wanted to ask about the timeline, because if we have to go, right, the website shows us when we start to feel the impacts of some of these cuts. If we go down fire assessment fee, for example, as a potential option, when would we see the first dollar from implementing such a fee, assuming that it was warranted and we went through that entire process?
So if you chose to start soon, then we would be looking at a year from now, right? Which would give us time to get ready for the FY '28 budget, which is when we would realize the cuts. If you wait, we won't make the FY '28 budget.
Because of course we are budgeting according to the trim notices and all
Exactly.
that good stuff that happens in September and October.
Right, so we have to, adopt the trim notice and adopt the millage rate in July.
Right.
So before we even get to the budget hearing. So if we start later than that, we won't have time to get it back from a consultant and have discussions, because that consultant, it will give us some options, right, of how to assess. So there's different methodologies. There's 2 primary methods that people are using. So all of that needs to have discussion. And then we'll have to have, public meetings to discuss this with the public too.
This might be a little out there. Do you know off the top of your head? If you don't, it's fine. What specific costs can be paid with a fire assessment fee? Is it for capital costs only, personnel? Anything related to?
It is for fire protection. So
Okay.
anything related to that, yes. So that is personnel costs. I'm not sure about the capital costs,
Okay,
but personnel costs, definitely.
which are very large. I mean, that's no secret. Okay.
Does that include EMS as well? Or
So they would have
strictly
to,
fire?
they would have to look at that separately. So
Okay.
we're one of the few counties that has a separate EMX an EMS tax, right? So we get money for EMS. Other counties aren't the same, so they would have to, they would basically have to untangle that to figure out how much EMS support we're getting from the EMS tax on a property bill versus how much others. So that's why it will take some time.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay. One other thing that I just wanted to point out in sort of like a fairness note, if you will. In this list, I understand that Parks is second on the list of expenditures, but I wanted to just give a moment because a lot of people don't understand that Parks is this category and Rec is this category. Can you explain just briefly what is under Parks that causes it to look so large on paper?
Well, it's the maintenance of our parkland, right? But we also maintain lots of other things, right? So medians are part of that in the parks budget, right? Sometimes that might be in a public works budget, but the big thing that is in the Parks and Recreation budget is facilities maintenance. So that is unusual that you would have like a facilities maintenance, where building maintenance is in a Parks and Recreation budget. And so you're talking about the Oldsmar Sports Complex, you're talking about general parklands, you're talking about all the special events that we, host and actually produce.
Right.
So you're talking about a wide range of services.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that Chip Potts ain't out there with $3.8 million just, throwing events at the park, because that's not what this is. This is a whole lot of buildings and a whole lot encompassed within the Parks and Rec department
Right, so
and budget.
And even the Parks and Rec, we just had a social post that talked about it, but, we have 10 parks, we have 11 employees that take care of 214 active acres
Jesus.
every week. So then you could discuss the frequency of the grass cutting at the parks, right? So, that would be a level of service reduction. And how often do we pick up trash or maintain restrooms or things like that?
Gotcha.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead,
If I could. So just on the fire assessment, so would any of, go back.
She's going to go
I was
straight to
gonna
the
go
slide.
to,
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
back, I'm going
We're
back.
doing the PowerPoint magic again. Hold your thought, don't forget it.
I got it. I'm back.
Yes, here, okay. So there's program revenue on fire right now, right? And if the assessment from the fire fund has to go directly to fire protection, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so is any of that budget, can we reallocate that anywhere else if we did
Yes.
create the fund? And is any of that $894K in total program revenue, can that go somewhere else, or is that strictly for fire?
That couldn't go somewhere else. That has to go into fire. Most of that, when you're looking at the 702,000, has to come with, Pinellas County gives us, transfers money from the EMS part to support that. So that's why we'd have to untangle that part. So then you're looking at, that's why when you're looking at the net program expenditures, it's that number, it's 2.656 that could be offset by a fire assessment fee.
Okay,
And this, again, is last year's numbers.
right.
Right,
And
So-
then,
okay. Go.
That was a good question.
no, go ahead, that was one question, now I'm gonna pivot.
Okay.
Pivot. Friends reference.
We got it.
I got it. I'm with you. I got it.
So just question for clarification, the Oldsmar tax growth rate, is that 4%, and what is the basis of that?
So Mike Twitty put in an annualized 4%. Ours happens to have been 4% over the last 2 years, or close to it.
I think weren't we the lowest in the county too?
We
Like,
were.
It was a little bit sad
Okay.
panda, but accurate.
Okay,
And so, yeah, for us, it makes sense. A lot of times you would see the beach communities got double-digit increases. We didn't. We're always sort of like that slow and steady. at the bottom, so.
Okay, good.
Can you talk about, just briefly, or maybe Cindy or Garrett could touch on it, when we talk about eliminating some of these taxes, is there a potential disproportionate impact on our business community? So, for example, the TPP, right, the $1 million for, I can't remember which one. I mean, we've got lots of businesses with all that nice, fancy, expensive equipment to all do all the cool manufacturing we do in Oldsmar. We like getting that money. But of course, if we don't end up getting that money, then I guess they keep it?
Yeah, so $1 million, that hits us, and when you take time to look through the calculator, you'll see we're one of the highest cities with the highest impact for that category.
that category.
That one is a bill that's not getting discussed much because it's not affecting a lot of cities, right?
Goes us.
So, but it affects us, and so really that's on equipment like Chromalloy and all the equipment. The reason that last year our tax increase was so low was because Nielsen divested all their equipment. So one
that's
company
right.
divesting hurt our realization of tax revenue.
It was a
So,
lot, too.
so,
was like
so that will hit us. Now, our profile is, it's about 50-50 residential and commercial.
Okay. Whereas most cities are not that way.
No,
Their
most cities.
Residential component is much higher.
Much higher. Like the beach communities are probably 95% residential, right? Most cities most cities look at us and want to be us for that, for the diversification of the revenue coming from commercial and from residential properties.
I bet they do right now.
Do we have any idea how much we'll bring from the sale of the fire truck, and where does that go?
I don't know at all yet, and so that'll go back into the Public Safety Impact Fund. Is that right? Yeah, from where it came from, which is Public Safety Impact Fund.
Which we can't touch,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Did you say 200? Not $2. Yeah, we put about 200, but we won't know until somebody bids on
You
it.
saying I can buy a fire truck for the cost of a Ford F-150? King Ranch?
Very nice Ford F-150.
Maybe a Raptor R.
Just saying.
Yeah. The $200,000 Ford F-150
My dad had the
Yeah.
King Ranch edition with the things and the,
for $200,000?
yeah.
Okay, I've got a Murano that doesn't work. Your dad wants to come over.
Anyway, onward. Thank you for answering my questions about the various options. Did anybody have any other questions about the options? Okay. Take you back to
So I
your,
will, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just, I had one and then I filed it away till they were done and then I forgot and now I got it. Okay. Option C, the combination. And truly, option A, I guess, is part of the question. When we're looking at service reduction, what you're going to do is look at getting public input, what's the most important thing to you, but then giving city council real-time options on making decisions on what we can or should cut? Or how would that look realized? So say we did option C, we did combo approach, and we eventually end up with a fire assessment and possibly a street lighting assessment. But then you recommend, maybe we reduce hours in the library, maybe we reduce some of the park services, or we decide to cut out fireworks. Do those options come back to city council to vote on?
in the budget.
Yes.
And, okay.
Yeah, so we'll bring that as part of the budget work sessions, which is another discussion that we have to have, right? Again, those all take time. So not the upcoming budget work sessions, but those next ones, we'll take the community engagement, we'll couple it with, our data, and then we're going to see how much fire assessment, maybe if you guys want to do that, we'll, take up of that. What are we trying, what's our target? And then these are the things that the public said, and then we'll hand it over, and you guys will decide what gets reduced. There might not be much to reduce if there's a fire assessment and, lighting assessment. So all of those things are fluid at this point.
What about sales and use tax? Have we looked at that at all? or what that impact may be?
So we get a proportionate share of that, so we don't look at the sales tax.
Okay, because I saw it 0 on the,
Yeah, Cindy, do you want to?
Yeah. We receive a portion of the sales tax through the state revenue sharing, and then most of it's a penny for Pinellas, which goes into the capital projects fund. And
Okay.
that's what used to fund the major capital projects.
okay.
Hopefully that answered.
All right. Back to the PowerPoint magic. Or was that the last, oop, there you go.
Thank you. So really, this is, I'll be bringing this back to you all, probably not at the next meeting, but at the next meeting. So the second meeting in February. And then we can discuss it further, and then I'm going to seek your guidance then.
Just a quick look at me moment. Is anybody in favor of option D?
No.
No,
Okay, so there's a little bit of guidance.
I always want to give a no action option, because it is an option.
I
I think that does us a
I hope we
disservice.
don't have to implement, anything, but
Yeah, maybe plan for and not implement anything is the best option.
getting stuck all of a sudden in 2028 and then having to make major level of service adjustments would be very jarring to the community, and I would not want to do that. Okay, I just wanted to ask real quick, because we didn't talk about that one.
And with even a fire assessment exercise doesn't mean that you have to actually, deploy a fire assessment fee if something changes.
Yeah.
Okay, are you guys ready for part 2?
Yeah.
Ready for two?
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me ask a question before we go to part 2.
Uh-oh.
Is the fire assessment idea the most, I don't know, cost-effective or efficient? You got all these leverage, all these different options. Is that the one that stands out to be the most impactful, like, expedient? I mean, you can add all these other assessments, but it seems like that's the first go-to.
I think because the Florida statutes allow it, right? So there's no parks assessment fee, right? So because it allows it, it's impactful, it's a large part of the budget. So, you're diversifying where that revenue comes for sustainability of fire as well. So I think it's something to look at.
I think one of the reasons that I look at it is just historically speaking, our budget every year is largely, it's general services, fire, and, the sheriff's office,
It's like
right?
50% of it.
Yeah, and, with the recent contributions we've had to make for firefighters' pension fund, and that's gonna happen again from, what we can tell. And, continued rising costs and the tendency of the legislature, of course, well-intended to protect those particular lines of work, I feel like that statute is there for a reason, for cities to make sure, the signal to me, if you have that law, is to make sure that your city is funding these things. So that's why I looked at it. I don't know if you guys looked at that for any other reasons.
So, another question. In EMO 2, when I went, they discussed fire levies. That's separate and apart from a fire assessment, is that correct? Or is that the same thing?
It's the
Different
same.
words?
Different words.
So a fire assessment would be something that the public would vote on? Or no, it's something that the city council
No.
would vote on?
The council votes on that.
What were there any revenue ideas from the other cities? You said you were in meetings with some of the other cities. I mean, what kind of ideas did they come up with?
Largely, they're looking at fire assessment fees. So that's what our conversations have been mostly about. Everybody's raising fees, but the the Florida statute doesn't give us like an unlimited creative ability to come up with other ideas. We only can get fees from what is allowed in the statutes. So that really limits us.
And one more question, just to clarify, on these different bills, like the 201 and 205 are distinctly different. It's not like 201 is all, because you have all on there. So I just want that clarified. So all doesn't mean that 2.7 is a combination of all the other bills. It means that that's an individual bill.
I'm not sure
I think
where,
that one said all because it contemplated cutting all
All
of
homes
the
of-
potential
right.
types of taxes. I
Yeah.
think that's why, yeah.
It just could have been confusing, so I
Yeah.
wanted to just
Yeah.
make sure everybody knows that they're all,
Yeah,
like-
that's a,
like if we add all these together, if all of these pass, then it's like,
yeah, we put the and option in because that would be a likely one. Because the TPP isn't getting a lot of attention, right? We're not hearing about it in the media because it doesn't affect that many communities. So, you know, it would be likely that that might pass with something else, right? All of these, you know, could go to the ballot. That's, you know, I have no idea.
right, okay.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, that was the last statement that you made, Council Member Olmsted. Just, it brought to mind, you know, that a lot of people don't think that, you know, government costs money, right? They go to the park, they don't see like that we're paying insurance. We pay property taxes too. We also have a bill that we pay to TICO. We pay, you know, for a lot of things that the public doesn't realize. And so, you know, they don't necessarily know how painful a reduction in service level could be, but they also don't realize that if we don't reduce service levels, how expensive it is to maintain things. So combination for sure, for me, but in any event. Okay, now we ready? Next section? Next section. Okay.
All right, now here we are for our council priorities update. So your existing city council priorities are the following: maintain existing infrastructure, expand community engagement, establish the downtown corridor, enhance roadway safety for all modalities, execute Oldsmar Sports Complex improvements, and determine future infrastructure needs through master planning. So we are going to provide an update on each one of those priorities. Maintain existing infrastructure. I'd like to invite Jonna Jan up to the lectern.
Hi, John.
Good evening.
Hello.
Jonna Jan, I'm the Public Utilities, Director of Public Utilities, and I'm the Interim Director of Public Works. Okay, so I'll be providing an update on council priority maintaining existing infrastructure through a status update on some of our larger capital projects. So fiscal year '25 was a pretty busy year. We had some very large capital projects. Some of those projects have extended into this year. We had the WRF control building. That project should be finished up in fiscal year '26. The aeration upgrade, we're hoping that that will be wrapped up pretty soon. The water meter upgrade project, this project has converted just over 50% of our water meters to radio read meters. And then we'll be adding another phase in the future to convert the rest of the city. The South Oldsmar Infrastructure Project, the culvert at State Street, the Douglas Road Project. This project, the bid came in very high, and it was decided to reduce that project to just resurfacing. Also, the St. Pete Drive Complete Streets and Roundabout Project. So in addition to some of those projects that have extended into this year, we also have added 14 new capital projects to this fiscal year. So the South Oldsmar Infrastructure Project, that project is divided into two sections. It's the streets portion and the utility portion. We've received the final plans and bid documents for that project. We did apply for multiple grants for that project, and they were not approved for this funding cycle. But we did request a reallocation of the DOT grant for Douglas Road, and we'd like to apply that to this project. So the gravity sewer lining project, that's work. Gravity sewer lining is something that we do annually. This year, it's a much bigger project. It'll be lining the main line that feeds the wastewater treatment plant. It basically takes all of the wastewater from the collection system through that line into the wastewater plant. Again, staff applied for multiple grants for this work. We keep trying. It was not approved in this funding cycle, but it is a critical project, so we're moving forward with that. Future actions are just to schedule that work, and we like to do gravity sewer lining in the dry season, so that should be kicking off pretty soon, and you recently approved that expenditure, so thank you. So the culvert at State Street, we did receive 2 grants for this project, a HUD grant of $1.6 million and a DEP grant for $1 million. The final plans have been submitted by the designer, and future actions are just advertising the project for bid and getting it constructed. Also, I should say for this project, the culvert at State Street, the total project is estimated at 3.4. So the grants don't completely cover that. Okay, so we also have a new project. This is resiliency upgrades at the water reclamation facility. We combined several projects that were unfunded previously. That included elevating electrical panels, implementing generator improvements. We're going to replace a methanol tank with a saltwater resistant material. All things that we learned that needed to happen after our previous storm events. So we did receive a state appropriation for this project for $1 million. And we estimate the project to be a total of 1.8. So future actions will be to finalize the work order to conduct the design and advertise and begin construction. Okay, and now I'll give it to Jordan, who will talk about community engagement.
Hello, my name is Jordan Lance. I'm the assistant to the city manager, so I'm going to talk real quick about what we've been doing for expand community engagement. So we have the council adopted the community engagement policy that utilizes the IAP2 categories: inform, consult, involve, collab, and empower. Then we also have the annual report efforts. We've enhanced social media with videos, which I'm excited about. We also have new strategy software that staff has been working on. Park surveys, we've done annual accomplishment booklets every year, and we have the new public art advisory board. So future actions, we're going to continue council's community engagement policy, implementing it. We have the strategic plan public dashboard, which is coming in February, which I'm excited to show you all and show the public as well. And then we'll have new social media campaigns. Survey for recreational programs is coming out, new podcasts, public art month, and then we'll do a website redesign to meet new ADA requirements. So that's coming up as well this year. So now I will turn to Jay.
Thanks, Jordan.
Hi, Jay Sanchez, city engineer. Good evening. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the enhanced roadway safety for all modalities. And basically, there are two projects I'm going to talk about. First one is a downtown mobility study, or Safe Streets for All. The downtown mobility study was completed already, and it was submitted to Ford Pinellas. The study created a list of projects that are currently unfunded. Future actions for that is basically waiting for Ford Pinellas to submit these particular projects for grant funding. Next project is a St. Pete Drive Complete Streets and Roundabout project. That one right now, as you know, we had to redesign the project. The redesign is complete. DOT currently has the plans right now, the 100% plans. We're just waiting on their review and concurrence, hopefully. This project had two grants also, each one $1 million, one for the complete streets portion, the other one for the roundabout. The complete streets is federal dollars, and the roundabout was state funds. The future actions is basically the city to complete the bid documents right now. Once we complete the bid documents, we'll send it over to DOT, and hopefully they'll review all the plans, technical specs, bid documents, and hopefully issue the NTP for us to advertise. After that, of course, we'll advertise. The construction is expected to start hopefully this year. I'm hoping in the summer, late summer, more or less. It'll be about an 18-month construction. And the estimated construction cost right now is $5.6 million. And with that, I believe Tatiana?
Good evening, Tatiana Childress, City of Oldsmar Planning and Redevelopment Director. So now is the fun part of this presentation. So under the downtown redevelopment, we have two main projects, the Odeon site and the City Hall site. So the Odeon project is currently under construction. The development agreement was approved, followed by the site plan approval. The infrastructure construction phase is currently, is nearly complete. And the builder, the DRB Homes, they received the first two permits for the vertical construction. So for the model building 3 and 4, those model buildings will be located on the corner of St. Pete Drive and State Street. The future, also under the completed actions, we actually just received the final plat transmittal to the city for signatures. And the future action is actually completing all of the buildings, the entire construction. So under the City Hall side, so under the completed actions, we have the City Council authorize the city manager to negotiate with Stanbury Development Group. The revised conceptual plan was submitted and approved by City Council. Under the future actions, we have the Stanbury will have to complete the site plan, summarizes the requirements for the development agreement. And next we have Oldsmar Sports Complex with Chip Potts. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chip Potts, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Hi, Chip.
Hi. So at the Oldsmar Sports Complex, we had a number of improvements over the last year, which have really enhanced the complex for our users out there. And I'll go over a few of those here this evening. First of all, we installed a new, beautiful sign at the entrance to the facility, which really enhances its appearance and aesthetics. I'm sure you've all seen it. It's beautiful out there. They did a really nice job on it. We've also replaced the worn-out doors and frames on the soccer and football concession building that were rusted and really starting to lose functionality and not be very safe. So that was a nice improvement there. Following the two hurricanes in late 2024, we had damage to the backstop on field number 3, so we replaced that backstop to make that field usable again. And in addition to that, last year we improved the turf playing surface with seed and turf conditioner. Our guys have been working really hard with the level of usage out there to maintain those fields, so it's always a challenge. But actually, one of the most exciting and noticeable accomplishments last year was Phase 1 of the athletic field lighting project. We relamped Field 1, Field 2, and Field 7 on the baseball and softball side with LED lighting, which has made a noticeable difference. Lots of comments and envy from other cities that come to play at our facility. Some of the future actions that'll be completed this year include the reconstruction of the BMX turns, the resurfacing of the BMX turns at the BMX track, the construction of a new batting cage in cooperation with Oldsmar Little League and CFY. That'll be adjacent to the girls softball field, so closer to the entrance of the facility when you first come in. And then finally, the completion of the LED retro fitting project on baseball and softball fields 3, 4, and 5, and then also the retrofitting of soccer, football 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to be a big improvement all around. So that's all I have for you this evening. So thank you.
Thanks, Chip.
Okay, John and Jan again. So just to give you an update on future infrastructure needs through master planning. So we did complete a water supply plan a couple years ago, and we are on the verge of completion of a water reclamation facility master plan that includes looking at the collection system and also a stormwater master plan. So those should be wrapping up soon, and then there'll be presentations to council. Future items or future actions include finalizing these plans, again, council presentations, and then a revenue sufficiency study in fiscal year 2027, and programming these capital projects. Thank you.
All right, so you guys can see where I'm going with this, right? So here are the current ones on the left, and then the new ones are blank on the right. So I've been thinking about how you all can go about this, but you may want to consider which ones you want to move forward, if any, and then you could talk about if you wanted to add any.
So to me, and this is just me, I'm going to jump in there because I'm assuming everybody has like crickets.
Wow.
But, okay.
Just assume.
I'm going home. Dude.
this is just an idea. This is an idea, right? So obviously, we've got to continue forward with the projects, that are continuing into the priorities, that have continuing projects into 27 and 28, et cetera. So to me, maintaining the existing infrastructure doesn't go anywhere. Expand community engagement, maybe it changes to continue community engagement. And then establish downtown corridor doesn't really change. Enhanced roadway safety doesn't really change. I think, and this is a historic moment actually, I think execute Oldsmar Sports Complex improvements can come off. This is just a thought, because if Chip said, well, he said they'll be
We've executed the
in
Oldsmar
fiscal
Sports
year.
Complex improvements, right?
Assuming that doesn't cancel the projects that are already slated for.
Well, no, because he said that all of them would be completed in fiscal year 26. And these are priorities for fiscal year 27,
Yeah.
28, 29. So to me, that one comes off unless I'm missing something, or unless that slide was missing something, Chip.
You'll be missing
Well,
Chip's Christmas
we'll continue to do projects there. It just.
Right, it's just the
not your
priority level. I mean, at one point, execute Oldsmar Sports Complex improvement contemplated, millions and millions of dollars of investment into the BMX track and then fixing the BMX track. And it's really winding down into just maybe not a priority. It's a continuing capital improvement, but it's not, to me, it doesn't rise to the level of including it on a priority. And then for future infrastructure needs through master planning, it's not determined anymore. It's execute the action items as determined through master planning? Because now we've got all these plans finally, so we actually know what we need to do and where we're going, which we never knew for water supply, stormwater, parks, I mean, pick a topic. So now we actually have those plans so we can execute the action items that these various consultants and plans have yielded. So to me, it's not all that like complex. I don't know if you guys were thinking something different, but I didn't overthink this too much.
No, I had keep, change, keep, delete, change, which.
Okay, that was even simpler than my
Yeah,
explanation. but-
and the only reason I wrote change was my whole point was, is the way that it's written, actually what the priority is any longer. And I had that for established downtown corridor, because we have the Odeon project that is already being built. We've had the development agreement negotiations going on with Stanberry. We've taken a step forward with the City Hall project. So are we really establishing it now, or does that need to change? And it was just a matter of verbiage. But downtown corridor had to say, but we're really going to haggle over words. And then,
I'll haggle with you.
I'm sure you will. And then the roadway safety for all modalities, I thought that would continue to be important. I thought the sports complex, what has been accomplished already, we made that a priority, and those accomplishments have been vast.
Whoa.
And the meeting's over, end scene. And then, similar to what you were thinking, Mayor, in terms of the future infrastructure, the master planning's occurred, and so we have to determine what is going to be. Correct?
Yeah, I said like execute action
Yeah,
items
that's what I mean.
or
So it's,
something.
my whole thing was, all of these are good. We've done what we anticipated to have done at the sports complex. Keep the rest, but does the language need to change? And if it doesn't, I still think the sentiment is there. It was just a matter of, do we change the verbiage?
Yeah. Can we? Jordan knows how to. Oh, Garrett, are you touching the buttons on that?
Who's adjusting them as we talk?
The second one still says expand community engagement,
Right.
Maintain?
right? Oh, wow, look at that. Or maintain, we used the word maintain a couple times. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
maybe
vary it.
that's-
I'm
Yeah,
just-
repetitive.
What do you guys, sorry, not you guys. Councilmember Swatter, Councilmember Olmsted, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Got nothing but cricket chirps over here.
Yeah,
Hey,
what's going
hey,
on?
hey.
Seriously.
Ouch.
Was I right, or I'm just saying, I'm trying to be
I
efficient.
spoke, that doesn't sound like crickets over here,
Yeah.
but I'm sorry.
No,
So-
I agree with Vice Mayor about essentially just changing, maybe changing some of the words, enhance downtown corridor, implement down, things like that. Just changing a word or two. But, yeah, I'm in agreement.
Do you agree about removing Oldsmar Sports Complex
Yes.
improvements?
Yes.
Okay. What about, okay, execute, I like that, that's good. This is crazy, I didn't know you could do this through PowerPoint. Again, I'm not a PowerPoint expert. but-
We need to get Chip some water or something.
Chip, it's not like that. You know it's not like that.
So
Yeah,
maintain.
that's like an attaboy, right? Like, good job.
It's a good thing. How many times have you stood up here to give an update on where we are on execute Oldsmar Sports Complex improvements? I think since my daughter was born. Which is a good thing. It's a good thing. We want to accomplish these priorities. This is important. And it's also important to note that, these things haven't changed for a while for good reason. We don't change the priorities too much because we are giving our city staff the direction to, move toward for extended periods of time and with lots and lots of dollars. So you can't just change these willy-nilly every year because we see something shiny that we want to work on. It needs to be very decisive, and that's why Sports Complex was on there for so many years. Cindy.
So my only comment is, so there were a lot of grants that we had disapproved or denied. And I didn't see a lot of grants on there for like Parks and Recreation. And you would think that there should be some environmental or some other types of grants that you can get if you have a city with so much park space that we have. So I don't know if, grant submission, grant writing, grant identification, or something like that would be a priority for council, but I think that, not implying that nobody's looking at these grants, just making a comment that, maybe that might be something to.
Can you elaborate, Felicia, a little bit about how all the departments, especially parks though, applies for grants and what we do?
We aggressively apply for grants, and you can see that in a lot of grants that we've been awarded. The Parks and Recreation field is interesting, right? So we've applied for direct appropriations. The BMX track was built off of a direct appropriation. We've applied for so many. There's a grant program called FERDAP, which is the Florida Recreation Development Assistant Program, on every parcel. So we're no longer really eligible for that grant bucket through the state because all of our stuff is previously, and when you go to the parks, it'll say funded by FERDAP is what we call it, and there's another source, the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And so the last FERDAP grant that we got was because we were building and renovating a new spray park. So but those limits
We
are
put the
like.
sign in the back, it's there.
Yeah,
It's
the
there.
limits are like 200 grand unless you're looking for a direct appropriation. So every year we bring what our legislative asks for direct appropriation is to the council. And in the last few years, that's been something related to water, sewer, roads. And our lobbyists will help us look at what projects we put in there as to what is most likely to get funded this year. So the reason you'll see resiliency and, the WRF is because things like the hurricanes, right? So they want to fund those in bigger amounts. So that's kind of an overview of that. But we aggressively apply across the board, and it's pretty amazing how many grants we get for a city our size. Because we don't have dedicated resources to seeking those out. It's just we have passionate employees and iDrive that we need to supplement revenues.
And
So,
can we apply for private grants?
some. We normally stick to the public phase. And again, with our limited resources of operating a city, if we were going to start going after like private foundation grants, we would probably need to budget somebody with
Like a grant writer.
with a grant
Full-time.
writer that specializes in that specific arena. I don't see a lot of public entities getting private foundation grants, and I've been doing this for 30 years of my life. I don't see it. It's not that it's not an opportunity. It's just not a
Well, Oldsmar got one.
right. Well, we got one for the Kiwanis, right? So, but those are usually smaller dollar ones.
Right, but
So, but yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, so I like direct appropriations because it's a check, right? Even if it doesn't cover the whole cost, it's a check. Whereas grants a lot of times have, and this is my understanding, please correct me, Cindy, Garrett, Felicia, sometimes there's a matching requirement. A lot of times there are continuing obligations administratively after the grant that we have to deal with for a decade sometimes, maybe more. I'm getting the nods, which are administratively expensive as well. I'm definitely not opposed to grants, and I know that we do work really hard to, apply for ones that fit. I know after the hurricanes and the LMS project, you guys were
yeah, that was great.
literally writing grants all weekend, and I appreciate that hard work. I know it didn't work out for those couple of projects that we did submit it for. But I know we're going to keep doing that regardless of whether it's a priority or not.
And to bring that up, so all of the grants, I'm glad we make it look easy. So when the checks come from the legislative, it doesn't come like a check, like you think it does. It comes through a state agency, and they fund us through a grant from that agency. And that grant comes with requirements. I can't even tell you how many those have right here. If we get a federal grant, like the one we got for the State Street culvert, that comes with even more requirements. We are still, so some of those reporting requirements go on actually in perpetuity. We have in perpetuity reporting requirements for Florida Community Trust grants that we got to build parks facilities. So,
That means forever.
yeah, forever. And they're annual requirements and annual reporting requirements. So all of the money that we've received, except the Kiwanis, comes with a lot of strings.
You got any more of that?
See, private grants. There's something to it. No, just kidding.
Any other discussion?
I just, when Felicia said perpetuity, I saw a T-shirt this week that said the rule of perpetuities doesn't understand you either, and I kind of wanted
No
to
interest
buy
is
it.
good unless it must vest or unless it must fail within
Does it really please
1
the
year of
court?
a life
I wanted
of
that
being
T-shirt too. So I
the
was
time the
thinking,
interest was created.
I get it.
I still remember it.
Implement, I don't.
Oh,
Implement,
remember the rap?
I mean,
Wow,
I have,
it's a law school thing.
anyway. Implement downtown corridor. Pursue further development of the downtown corridor. Pursue development of the downtown corridor.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Implement is kind of a weird word.
What are we
It's
implementing?
still in process, right? There's still a lot of steps.
Can't implement something until we have it in hand, so pursue. I have pursue further development of the downtown corridor or pursue development of the downtown corridor is what I wrote down.
I like that.
This would be further development because we have Odeon.
Already starting.
And then I would change continue and continue community engagement to continued community engagement. And that's just because I'm nitpicking.
What, it's like a passive active voice thing? You just,
Continued, meaning we are currently doing it, it's going to be continued.
agree to disagree, but you can have your D. That's
Yeah,
fine.
you can take the
That's
D.
fine. No,
That's fine.
no, have the D.
How does it you agree to disagree?
I'm gonna take a poll of the room.
If I take the D, then you do agree to disagree, I guess is what you're saying. Thank you, whoever's laughing. Those are my suggested changes.
Councilmember
I
Tadazowski?
don't like the continued community engagement either.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
take it
Just
off.
because of the specific word, but I'm trying to think of a better word.
That's
and
what I
haven't
was trying to
come
do
up
Take a
with
too.
one
minute,
yet,
take a minute.
so,
We've got,
I don't want you to take it out yet.
Because we expanded, the priority was expand community engagement. I
Right.
would think, I
Definitely.
believe we've done
expanded.
the
Can
expansion.
you just make it community engagement? Like, is
Are we
that,
done with the expansion, because we're talking about.
You
new
need a verb
podcasts,
there?
We're talking about doing additional stuff on social media. We are still expanding that community engagement even now.
Do we hear sustained?
But if we're building upon
okay,
it, it wouldn't be
okay.
sustained.
But are
Well,
we?
let me
are we
back this up.
Increasing it still,
Lem-
because we're coming
okay.
up with signs.
Continued
and QR
expansion?
codes and-
Okay, I get what you're saying. I think this is a good moment for input from staff, because I think if we expand it anymore, we're going to have to clone Deb.
I hear what you're saying.
And Jordan, I don't know if are we still expanding? Or do you see it as more of a continued or sustained community engagement?
That's a hard one, right? Because we more evolve community engagement.
Oh.
Some things that we're not doing, we do it differently as people consume information differently. So we more pivot than we are, expanding. But we're at our limits for staff
I
capacity,
like the
so.
word evolve. That's a good, thank you. That summarized what I was thinking.
I don't like evolve, but I don't want to stay here past 8 o'clock, so,
Cultivate,
no.
okay.
We need a thesaurus. I should have brought one.
You got that fancy Google machine in your pocket.
I think, wordsmithing aside, I think the
Involve community engagement.
when it comes back to council for a vote on these priorities and on the options, perhaps we'll have given staff enough time to mull the synonyms that could be appropriate. I think you gathered the sentiment.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay? Good?
Continued sentiment,
Yes.
continued.
Well, I'm for
Continue.
continuous, what was it? Improvement.
I'm for continuous improvement.
That's what Councilmember Swager is for.
I just didn't want to use the word continuous too many times.
First of all, continue
But
is
I'm-
on there once, and I
Well, no,
Not there at all.
added a letter.
I am all for continuous improvement. Are you on board with the manatees still?
On board with manatees?
Yeah, the manatees. You don't remember the manatees?
I remember manatees, yeah.
It was a huge debate about the manatees at the last budget meeting, and you're not remembering. I
I
know Garrett
remembered the
remembers.
manatees and whether or not they were gonna get caught and how expensive that was gonna be, and
It was awful.
it was on a debate. We were just, but I was never against the manatees.
Road safety.
Who out of all of us, I was against the manatees?
I think this looks good.
I think it needs to evolve, but yeah, it looks good.
Oh.
I think it needs to evolve. We just need better, I want that, I want a different word.
The sentiment of that, it doesn't have to be that word, but I think it needs to be a synonym of that word, because we are.
I think we have our five, yeah.
Correct, and that we're not
Enhance,
expanding.
is it enhance? Is it?
What are you enhancing? Because then that's.
All right, okay, guys, here's the thing. When do we expect that the priorities and the options will come back before the council?
Second meeting in February.
Okay, so at the second meeting in February, we can whine and complain about synonyms more. But I think we're done here for the time being. We can continue.
You don't want the meeting to devolve, is that what you're trying to say?
Graver?
Nor continue.
Thank you, staff, department heads, all of you for being here tonight. I know you guys really, really love staying after work and coming across the street and upstairs to listen to us jibber jabber. And we appreciate you more than you know. And we know where the heart and soul of all of this is. I know we've got words and a lot of numbers, but you guys are the ones that make it happen, you know. It's been an amazing year. I know that the year to come, no matter what the challenges are, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, and we're gonna stay informed and stay on top of things. I don't want people to panic, but we plan. We don't panic, we plan, right? So thank you all, and I look forward to some of the take-homes, maybe, like Garrett talked about, the website. If we could let the public know about the property appraiser's website so they can play around with it. Some people might be inclined to see how that actually pans out. But other than that, all set. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This does not require a vote. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.